we have another question that's come up from Sue. It looks like, does it help with migraines? We actually hear that a lot, actually. One of Robert Scott Bell's biggest testimonials and one of his biggest reasons why he even looked in the product is because his producer and director, Super Don, actually starred on the product, and he used to get these debilitating migraines where he started on the product, and then RSB was like, "Hey man, I haven't heard about a migraine for a while," and he's like, "Oh, I guess I haven't had one for a while. Wow, that's crazy." And so that to me was like astounding. So do you have anything to say about that, Lisa?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were at a show in Florida, and there was this lovely young lady that came up to the table and said she was starting to see the aura of a migraine, and she was wondering if she took Cardi Miracle, if that would be helpful to her. I think Elizabeth is listening. She might remember this. She took the Cardi Miracle. We actually give her a little extra in her cup. She walked around and she came back and she said, "You know what? My aura is gone." And usually what happens when I start having a migraine, it just progressively gets worse. So that was something that I saw, firsthand. But we have many, many praise reports on people saying, "You know what, I used to have it, now I don't." Do we really understand where migraines come from? I asked Dr. Avery, who is a neurosurgeon, our chief medical officer on our staff, and he said there's so many different contributing factors to migraines. He said sometimes it's dehydration, sometimes it's magnesium, sometimes it's that the capillary beds in the brain, because it comes up through the back of your neck into your brain, and the capillary beds narrow. And if you're under stress or extra heat, maybe you're exerting yourself or whatever, those get very narrow, and that can cause, an extensive headache, which of course can be a migraine. So what I would suggest is if you start feeling that, start the product anyway every single day. But if you have a breakthrough headache, and you're feeling uncomfortable, go ahead and put a scoop, 2 scoops in a glass of water, take it down right away. Dr. Hellman said because the nitric oxide starts to be absorbed in the mouth right away, he said, go ahead and put it, swish it in your mouth as long as you can, and then swallow it because it will start to, the nitric oxide will start to form in sublingually as well.
It's amazing. I love that. Yeah. And we actually we proved that nitric oxide begins generating within 0.3 of a second once it hits your tongue. But some people say, can I get these nitric oxide testing strips or whatever? And then they get them and they pay a lot of money for them. They test and their nitric oxide says it's low, but that's because nitric oxide doesn't live in the saliva. But once you get down the sublingual pathway and they get into your gut and into your blood, then nitric oxide actually lives and sustains in the blood rather than in the saliva. So the only true test of trying to figure out how well nitric oxide is in your system, it would actually it'd be more of a blood test, but that as well would be hard to kind of manage. But thanks so much for that answer, Lisa. That was huge. I love it. And I tell people too, as well as I talk about this. I always talk about just being consistent, right? Because with anything, it's all about consistency. And weight loss, eating well, lifting weights, anytime you're working out a muscle, anytime you're trying to get better at something, it's all about reps. It's all about doing it day in and day out, every morning, every afternoon. What was exciting is we had a TV spot a couple weeks ago in California of healthy recipes in the morning. And the news anchor came over and he goes, "Hey, I take this every day." And he said, I can't remember what the coin phrase was, but I wanted to get it down. I think it said coffee in the morning, cardio miracle at lunch, or something like that, to keep you going, to keep it from crashing. And so it's kind of funny that even with this new spot that we had with a separate person that was doing kind of a recipe deal in California, the news anchor was like, "I've been taking this for years." It was really exciting. And so,
Great. That's great.
yeah, so people are taking coffee in the morning, like it's great. But if one of the biggest things that we have seen with especially even today with one of our calls is Jake was presenting and he said, I usually spend $200 a month stocking my fridge with energy drinks. And he said, I don't I don't have to do that anymore because he's like Cardio Miracle keeps me from going to that fridge and popping open a energy drink. So it's a huge testimonial of taking it every day, you know.